Plans by former President Edgar Lungu's family to bury him here in South Africa have been halted, at least until a court decision on where he can be buried. The Zambian government approached the High Court in Pretoria to have the funeral service interdicted. It was scheduled for today here in South Africa. Newzroom Afrika's Ziniko Mhlaba joins us now from the capital with the latest on this story. Ziniko, it has been a lot of toing and froing on this particular issue. There's a lot of history involved here. Just bring us up to speed.
Well, good afternoon, Iman. We're here at the Pretoria High Court to really, follow the legal actions which were instituted by the Zambian government. I beg your pardon there. So the aim or the purpose of that application was to have this court here in South Africa to pause any funeral proceedings, especially in regard to the former Zambian President, Mr. Edgar Lungu, who is scheduled actually to be buried here in South Africa. And as I'm speaking to you, there are mourners who are gathered in Hillbrow. They're just waiting for this court to pronounce whether he can be buried in South Africa or not. So at the center of this debacle, Iman, is the fact that the family of Mr. Edgar Lungu, they are saying that they do not want their leader, their husband, their father to be buried in Zambia, citing tensions, political tensions between the current president, Mr. Mhlaba, and Mr. Lungu himself when he was still alive. So what has been happening, the two sides have been engaging on this matter to an extent where there was a period where a settlement was reached and a decision was made so that Mr. Lungu's remains can be sent back to Zambia, and that was supposed to happen last Wednesday. It did not happen. On the last minute, the family felt that the government will not keep the terms and conditions, so they decided not to go ahead with that particular settlement. So they then announced to the public that he'll be buried in South Africa today. However, yesterday, we got to know that the Zambian government was not willing to give up, at least just yet. They approached the court to have that funeral service to be halted until there's a clarity in terms of whether he can be buried in South Africa. So one of the arguments tabled by the Zambian government, they're saying that Mr. Lungu was not just an ordinary individual. We were talking about a former head of state, and he deserved to be buried in his homeland in Zambia and be given presidential funeral. And of course, the second argument, they are saying that, well, it is in the interest of the Zambian citizens that he be buried in his home country in Zambia and not in South Africa. So they came to court. The family remains very strong and very tied to its position, saying that, well, Mr. Lungu did not want anything to do with the state, especially, on his last moment, especially when it comes to his end off. They're saying that they cannot break that promise that they made to him when he was still alive. So right now, we're waiting for both sides to engage. They did appear before the High Court judge here in Pretoria, and the judge then suggested that these two sides must engage behind the scenes, trying to come up with an amicable decision. And of course, they are still on, those processes are still ongoing. Both teams are still engaging. Maybe in the next hour or so, they will come out with a solution. But for now, the funeral service is not continuing in Hillbrow. And the people who were really cited in those court applications by the Zambian government is the former First Lady, Ms. Lungu, and her 4 children, but also their legal representative and the funeral parlor service provider. So at this point, that funeral is halted until there's clarity and there's whether an order or a directive from the court in terms of what must happen. So waiting for that process, waiting for those engagements to be concluded, and then get clarity whether that funeral is going to continue or it will be halted once again.